So it's been 5 years now that I've spent in China. Arrived here just before COVID started in 2019. And I thought while I was on this walk to get a few friends a Christmas gift, I'd take this opportunity to reflect on the past 5 years. Now all these thoughts are just my own. Anything that I say, I mean no harm in it. This is just what I've seen, what I've experienced. And I want to tell you guys how it is here in China. So right off the bat, 5 years ago, I remember arriving here and just being in complete culture shock of what was around me and where I found myself at the time. Now, before I came, I knew that it would be difficult living in China, at least off the start. I didn't know anyone. I didn't speak any of the language. I knew it would be tough. I didn't really even understand the culture. So when I first arrived, right off, I noticed, now me coming from Canada, a place full of immigrants and many different ethnicities, very diverse in culture and heritage and food, and then coming here to a complete monoculture. So everyone is Chinese, everything is Chinese, the food is Chinese, the culture is Chinese, it's all the same. Now this isn't necessarily a bad thing, I'm just saying it's something that I noticed right off the bat and was a shock to me, even though I knew that I was moving into this. So whenever I first arrived, I didn't speak any Mandarin at all, which I should have known better because everything is in Mandarin. So on more than one occasion, I went to a restaurant and I can't read. So I just kind of looked, and if there's no photos, no pictures of the food, then it's just all a game of chance. So I do remember on more than one occasion where I simply pointed to something on the menu thinking, oh, it's going to be a noodle dish or a rice dish, when it was something completely different, such as tripe, which I have grown to enjoy, or pig's hoof, which if you've never had one, it's just basically a bone and a whole bunch of fat. Very flavorful, but when it's not what you're expecting and you've never had it before, it's quite a shock. So from those first experiences, I learned that I had to learn Mandarin pretty quick. So I started taking lessons at a school that was nearby. They taught me all the basics, like the weather, how to greet each other, and the everyday phrases that you use, such as like ordering food or simply getting a car or a taxi. So if you're thinking about going to another country where English really isn't prominent, I strongly suggest that you take the time to learn some of the local language before you go, because this will not only help you, but it'll really make the locals feel like you're trying. So whenever you approach them and you greet them in their local language, they will try a little harder to help you if they see that you're trying. Now, one thing that I realized soon after moving to China was how much I truly underappreciated and underestimated everything that immigrants go through. Because here, I'm pretty privileged in that I know that I'm going to be moving back to my home country of Canada. I know that there's going to be work, and there's no concern about any of that. Now, when I think about it, or when you think about it, when you see an immigrant family, they left everything behind for maybes. You know, we're all going to move to a new country. We're going to leave our family, our friends, our culture, well, a lot of what we know behind. Hopefully they bring their history and their culture with them, because in my eyes, that really improves society as a whole, being diverse. But now I realize how much of a hardship they go through just to make that choice of leaving their home for a maybe. Maybe this will be better. Maybe we can get through this in a new country. Hopefully my children will have a better education. So moving here, somewhere that I didn't know, somewhere new, somewhere that I don't relate to at all, it really put into perspective how much immigrant families go through just day to day, just to get through. It's pretty amazing. So I think whenever I move back to Canada, or whenever I see immigrants anywhere else in the world, I'm gonna really have a newfound appreciation for them and what they went through, because this stuff is not easy. Now, a couple things I did have to get used to pretty quick here is that smoking is not necessarily legal indoors, but it is accepted in a lot of cities, not necessarily the top tier cities like Beijing and Shanghai, but it is in the lower tier cities. And also the spitting culture, which I don't know if you ever really get used to that. It's something you'll have to experience. I don't really feel like talking about it and trying to educate you on this. I'm sure there's many videos online that you can see about this. Now, whenever it comes to friendships and the social life, Chinese people are really warm and understanding, especially if you speak a little bit of their language. They really, like many cultures, they try to show you through their food and their cooking how much they care for you. But then if you're in a friend circle and you go out, it's going to be a different experience than something that I would experience back in the West. Usually in the West, you know, you would meet up for a bite after work, and then maybe go to a pub, have a few drinks while you're watching some sort of a sport event. Whereas here, there's not really any sporting events to watch. So whenever you go out to eat, it will be a long dinner, and there will be many shared plates. So that's another thing that I had to get used to here was whenever you go out to dinner, you don't have your own set plate. You will go to a restaurant, you will order, depending on how many people, maybe one dish per person, plus one. So if there's 4 people, maybe you get 5 dishes, but then all those dishes are shared. So they all go into the middle of the table, and you pick from it what you want as the night goes on. So this, I've really come to enjoy this. In some ways, it's better than in the West, where you get your one dish of food. But sometimes I also just like to have my own plate. So then after you would have this long dinner, they really enjoy going to KTV. So karaoke is huge here in China. It's huge all over Southeast Asia. They love to sing. They love to sing with other people. And they have some beers or some drinks at KTV. They have usually you get your own private room. And you'd have a whole bunch of your friends over. And you just sing. Now, I've never really partaken in this, but I know a lot of foreigners who have, and they really enjoy it. So if you're coming here, that's something maybe to expect. Another thing, coffee culture is just kind of catching on here. So it's still not a huge thing. It's not as big as in the West. It is starting to become a thing. There's more cafes opening day after day. But here, tea is still a big thing. So whenever you go out in the afternoon or late morning with a friend, sometimes they'll want to have a tea with a snack. So you go to a tea house and you just drink some tea. Now, the cost of living here isn't too bad. If you go for local food, it's going to be a lot cheaper than meals back in the West. If you go out to eat lunch here, it might be about 20 renminbi, which is about 4 Canadian dollars. So it's really not that bad. Now, that's for local food. If you want to eat some Western food, then the prices are going to be about the same as in the West. And you're just going to have to prepare for that. Now, some highs and lows that I've realized while living here is that in my 5 years here, I've really traveled quite a bit of China and Southeast Asia, which before moving to China, I've never traveled much. So I feel like this will really push me and has opened my mind to traveling more of my own country of Canada and even the US whenever I move back home. Because here I know that there's so many different cultures in every province, in every city that you go to. And I kind of want to see if that's similar where I come from. Now, the time that I've spent here in China has changed me, some for the better, some for the worse probably. I know that I've become more patient in some aspects, in some scenarios, but I've probably also become less patient in others. Now, moving here has really given me a different sense of the world as a whole, because wherever you are, you're probably living in your own little bubble, which is fine. That's fine. If that's how you want to live it, that's okay. That's your call. But there is such a big, large world out there full of other people, full of different cultures, tastes, different flavors, different smells, different everything, different situations that I think everyone should have the opportunity to experience. So if there's something that you can take home from this video, I hope that it's you get the courage or the follow through for a plan to go to a different country and experience different experiences, because it's something that you won't regret doing. It's something that's pretty amazing, and I'm very thankful for the opportunity to be here in China for the past 5 years, and I can't believe that's soon going to come to an end. And one thing that I do find difficult about living in China, and I kind of regret about not putting the time in before we moved here, or even since I've moved here, was really learning the language so that I'd be able to have more than just a surface level conversation with locals. So yes, I have local friends. They're great. It's amazing. Just like having buddies back home. But there is a limit to what we can talk about. So this can really hinder the growth of a relationship. And it's something that I think that I'll regret even after leaving here. If you plan on moving somewhere and it's a different local language, like I've said before, and it's not English or whatever it is that you speak, I really suggest that you put the time in, you learn it, so that you can make these connections with people whenever you go to wherever you're going. That could really make or break your experience of living abroad. So with that, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you in the next one.